You know what I'm doing right here? Mr. Middlebrooks. Is it the robot?
You're doing the robot.
All right, got to Mr. Roboto. Robo-umps come to the minor leagues. It's a big switch, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it was in indie ball. Was it Atlantic League?
Atlantic League, that's where they test out their new big base.
I talked to a guy here. I went out to there's a bar, like an outdoor bar called Tiki 52. It's just north of Jupiter, Florida. Went there with some friends, and one of the mutual friends that was there is a manager of an indie ball team. I can't remember which team it was, but we were talking about robo-umps. This is before, obviously, this just happened today. This happened like 2 hours ago on the 12th. And he was saying it got better and better and better, but there's also still was imperfect. He was saying sometimes it doesn't adjust right because what's weird is I'm trying to think the best way to word this. The way they shape each player's strike zone, number one, it has your height. It knows your height. That's all plugged into a database, and it has your batting stance. So if you like squat way down, like it knows you do that.
Mm-hmm.
But what if you change your batting stance?
Yeah.
So there was most of it is from the previous season. So if some guy has a drastic change in his batting stance, you're getting like chest high heaters called a strike. If you were like a Bellinger, like up high, and then all of a sudden you're like, you know what, I'm going to get more of my legs this season. Well, now chest high heaters are strikes because it hasn't adapted. So they're going to have to, if that gets to it isn't AAA. If that ever gets to the big league level, they're going to have a better system in which they are correcting and moving these lines. And I don't think it's going to be like just a database based off of last year or last week. I think will be able to change it per game. Almost like you step in the box and they're like, bang, bang, there it is. Bang, bang, there's the lines.
It'll be in the big leagues before 2024. I can almost guarantee.
Before 2024?
Not before. For the 2024 season, I could book it. Right.
Like they have to be looking at some type of variation. Like you're still going to have an umpire back there. You're still going to have there's still plays at the plate. There's still balk calls. There's still things that an umpire still needs to be back there for, fair and foul.
Catcher's interference.
But we've talked about this in the past. Yeah, catcher's interference. Everyone in the world that's watching the game knows if it's a ball or a strike because they see a strike zone on TV. Now, it's not always perfectly correct, but it's close. So everyone knows is it a ball or a strike except for the one guy that needs to know.
Yeah.
Right? So I like the human aspect because if it's 11-0 in the eighth, widen it. If there's a position player on the mound, make it a bigger zone. Like, I get it. Robo-umps won't be able to do that. That's right. So games will be extended and longer because of that. But give him a buzzer, like give him a beeper, like something in his ear, like ball strike. He can call it. But then, like, obviously, game's out of hand. He's able to do whatever he wants to do because the human's still there. I don't know. There's got to be some type of variation where you can't totally take away the human, but you can help the human be better. Closer to perfect.
Put this topic on pause for a minute because we have some other topics to discuss. First, I want to tease our audience a little bit. By the way, for those that are confused by our conversation already, Buster only reported that 2023, this season, robo-umps are coming to the minor leagues. So that's going to be implemented immediately. Times are a changing. Times have been a changing for a while now. We had the new rules in Major League Baseball this year. With the bigger bases, the pitch clock is going to be implemented as well. We'll get into that as well. Let's talk about some moves around Major League Baseball before we get into the rules, though. This is the Wake and Rake podcast powered by Swing Juice. Swing Juice is the official merchandise provider for the Wake and Rake podcast, episode 71. What is today? Today's Thursday.
Today's the 12th.
Well, that's kind of shocking to me. The last week for me, I've been sick. No idea what day it is. No idea what time it is.
You still sound snotty.
Yeah, I kind of have that little snotty little voice going still. But for some people, that works for them. Some people, that turns into voice of an angel. Not me.
No comment.
Not me.
You. Not me either.
That doesn't apply to everybody, but I wish it did for me. The Carlos Correa situation is finally over. He's a Minnesota Twin. It's a 6-year, $200 million deal.
With the opportunity to be 10 years, right?
There are vesting options, and he could earn up to $270 million. Basically, what the Twins did is they're saying, look, if your ankle really is a big deal, we're going to find out, but we're going to have some insurance on the back end for ourselves.
But the numbers are like, the last year of that contract, he's making like $5 million.
Yeah.
It's like the last 4 years are like 20, 15, 10, 5. Like, they're like, dude, you have an expiration date. It's crazy.
Did you listen to the press conference?
I did.
What really stuck out to me is what Scott Boras said, and also what Correa said. Basically, they both said that during the Correa, everybody wants to know, why did the Giants back out? Why did the Mets back out? And then the Twins all of a sudden swooped in. Basically, what Boras said is that the Twins used the doctor that already knew Correa for their physical. He knew of the injury before the physical ever started.
Right. So he wasn't surprised. He knew it was there.
The Giants and the Mets used the same doctors for their physicals. They had the same intel, the same information.
Which is weird because West Coast, East Coast, normally it's like completely different.
It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, right? But basically, they got the same intel. The Mets got the same intel that the Giants got. And so they had the same concerns that the Giants had. The Twins have had Carlos Correa in their building. He's been in their medical offices for the last year and a half. They know of his injury history. They know of every x-ray and MRI he's gotten. They know everything that he's projected or trajected to do for the next 10 years. Their doctor said, look, we know about the ankle injury. It doesn't concern us as much. The injury happened 8 years ago. Carlos Correa went on to say that he's never had to go on the injured list for that ankle before.
He said he hasn't even had treatment on it.
Never had treatment. So I don't know if this is going to come in. It's going to come and kick somebody in the ass at some point. Is it going to be the Giants and Mets, or is it going to be the Twins? Somebody's going to come back in 6 years and they're going to say, damn, we should have signed Correa. Or the Twins will say, we made a massive mistake.
I think it's a win. It's a win-win. Carlos is still getting broke off. He's not getting $350 million, but he's still getting $200 million. He has an opportunity to make up to close to $250 million.
He was actually expected to make $35 million next season before he opted out of his deal with the Twins. Now he's going to make somewhere around 32 to 33. So it's actually a little bit cheaper for this next season. Obviously, a longer deal.
I think this is. I think you should see more deals like this. Players union and the players will never be cool with it just because it costs guys money, but for the team, this is a great deal because you secure a guy in his prime, and then those we'll call them the dog days, the dog years of when he's a 37 to 41-year-old shortstop, you don't have to keep him. But if he's still a good player, you keep him, and you get to keep him for way less money because he's not going to be as productive. There's no way a 37-year-old shortstop is going to be as productive as a 30-year-old shortstop, the same player. So it's good. It's great for the Twins. I'm happy for Carlos because he's still set for life. His grandkids are still set for life. He's
$200 million.
Yeah, I know. So it worked out. Obviously, he wanted more money. Obviously, Boras wanted more money, but whatever. It worked out.
Hypothetically, if he only ends up getting 200, that's worst case scenario. He did go from 350 million guaranteed with the Giants down to 315 guaranteed with the Mets.
He did agree to $865 million this offseason.
That's a lot. Somebody said that he agreed to a contract with 10% of Major League Baseball teams.
Yeah.
3 out of the 30 teams. Moving on. Trevor Bauer was officially released, so he's free to sign with any team in Major League Baseball, and his suspension is over and done with. We touched on that in the last episode. The Dodgers made a trade for a shortstop, Mickey Rojas, who has been their captain in Miami for the last 5-6 years.
Good player. I like him.
He was actually traded over to Miami along with Dan Herron to Miami in exchange for it was Andrew Heaney, Kike Hernandez, and Austin Barnes back in 2015, I want to say it was.
Yeah,
so
I think that's right.
Miggy Rojas is going back to where it all began, back to Southern California. Not expected to be necessarily their everyday starting shortstop, but a utility player that can play.
Gavin Lux is, right?
Gavin Lux is expected to play shortstop. Chris Taylor potentially at second base. Max Muncy over at third base, and Freddie.
I was going to say Miggy could play some third base.
He can play all around. That's
you don't know what you're going to get from Max. He hit what? He hit under 200. I know he got better at the last month, but for most of the year, he was hitting like 170.
He had a bad year last year, no doubt. Batting average wise, for sure. Yeah, he had 196, 21 taters.
I know he walks, and he got hot in September. I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the Dodgers. A lot of people that are puzzled by their off season. A lot of people saying they're saving their money for Shohei Ohtani. That's certainly an option.
Feels that way.
But you look side by side with them and their one of their bigger rivals in the National League West, San Diego Padres. Well, they just added another weapon to their lineup with Nelson Cruz. 42-year-old Nelson Cruz agreed to a 1-year, $1 million deal with the San Diego Padres. So the first 6 hitters in the projected lineup for the San Diego Padres this year, they were each all-stars at least once since 2021. So in the last 2 years, the first 6 hitters were each all-stars.
I want to say something too about Nelson Cruz. He doesn't have to get one hit while he's a Padre, and he's going to make them better. Like, just knowing him, playing against him, knowing guys who were close and played with him, he's just like, he's that dude in the clubhouse.
Yeah.
I mean, he's like 50 years old. He's been around forever. You name it, he's seen it. He's lived it. He's done it. He's played in the big games. He's lost the big games. He's won big game. Like, he's like the ultimate teammate from what I hear. And I my interactions with him off the field, he's great. I mean, I know he got popped, a few years ago for PEDs. I think it obviously humbled him, but he's always been a hard worker. I'm not justifying what he did. I just like the guy. I don't like that he did that, and I hate to say it and bring it up, but it's part of his story. But I think him learning from that and coming away from that can maybe be a voice for Fernando Tatis Jr., who's also dealing with that right now. So he's stepping in as more of a mentor type. He's going to hit some homers and be an impact player in certain games for them. He's not going to be an everyday impact player, I don't think, unless someone, the injuries happen. We get that, but I think he's more of like a clubhouse voice, in my opinion.
He's the general manager for the Dominican Republic international team too.
Yeah.
So
that's pretty cool.
Manny Machado, Juan Soto, Fernando Tatis Jr., all 3 of those guys are from the DR.
Dude, the Padres lineup is really good.
Really good. Yeah.
If they're healthy.
And Nelson Cruz is not expected to have 600 ABs this year. He's probably going
to have 250.
He's going to platoon with Matt Carpenter, who's a lefty. So Nelson Cruz last year, his power numbers were down significantly. But if you look at his splits against left-handed pitching last year,
bingo,
just 150 at-bats. He had 5 homers, 27 ribbies, and a 728 OPS. It's not elite. It's not where he used to be, but a 728 OPS, 5 homers, and 150 at-bats. Maybe you double that, and you're fine. You'd take that if you're the Padres.
Yeah, totally. And like I said, he's there to mentor, I think, more than anything.
This is kind of a fun twist on it. I was looking... It's just a fancy way of saying, look, the Padres used to be bad. Oh, there it is. Voice crack.
It's been nice to hit puberty twice.
Yeah. I didn't think I ever hit it once, but in the previous decade, so from 2011 to 2020, the Padres had 3 total hitters make an all-star game. There was Everett Cabrera in 2013, Jay Up in 2015, Will Myers in 2016. As I mentioned already, the first 6 hitters in their projected 2023 lineup were each all-stars at least once since 21. Tatis, Soto, Machado, Bogarts, Cronenworth, Nelson Cruz. So it's a fancy way of saying the Padres used to suck. They no longer do.
Yeah, money talks, huh?
I have a fun stat for you before we move on to the rules. 4 National League players have a 300 batting average or higher since 2019. Can you name the last guy? I'll name
Okay, 4 guys have what again? Sorry.
4 national. I'm trying to think of how to quiz you here. 4 National League players have a 300 batting average or higher since 2019. Can you name those 4? Let's see how you do. There's one in the weeds that you will never guess in a million years, which is why
National League.
National League players, 300 batting average or higher since 2019. One of them,
Go ahead.
MVP in 2020 for the Atlanta Braves.
Freeman, obviously, yeah. I'm thinking Freeman. It's like a cumulative, right? Not just
cumulative since 2019. One guy just signed for $300 million with the Philadelphia Phillies this offseason.
Okay, so Trey Turner.
Another guy plays.
I'm stuck on the guy that like I won't guess. Like that's who I'm thinking. Like that's
okay. So here I'll give you the last kind of obvious one. Maybe not so obvious. His nickname is Squirrel with the New York Mets.
McNeil.
So your top the 3 obvious ones: Freddie Freeman, Jeff McNeil, Trey Turner.
Okay, so give me. Are you able to give me a hint on this guy? Is there any hint?
He's probably never made over league minimum. He played for the Cincinnati Reds last season.
White dude.
Nope.
Okay.
I think he might have been. I think he actually is Dominican.
Okay.
He used to play for the New York Yankees.
I'm thinking. Outfielder?
He's never made an all-star team, but he did win a Silver Slugger in 2020. He's an infielder. He only played 80 games last year for the Reds.
It's not Suarez.
No. Second baseman. He came up with the Marlins.
Solano.
Bingo.
No shit.
Solano. 4 guys. 300.
That's like I could like see his face and I couldn't think when you said second base. I was like, oh shit, I could not. And you said Marlins and I could like see his name on his jersey. I was like, all right, got it.
That's some elite company. Freddie Freeman, Jeff McNeil, Trey Turner, and Donovan Solano. The reason I bring that up is Solano is still a free agent for anybody looking to add a bat. Middle infield.
Yeah, like the Sox.
Yeah, let's get into that, man. I already teased we're going to talk about the rules, new rules going into 2023. But one last thing before we get into that. What's the deal with the Trevor Story situation? Did he wait too long? Did he try rehabbing it? What's the deal? Because
my personal opinion on it, I think, well, his medical records show that he's had elbow issues since 2021 with Colorado. So Boston knew about it. But as a second baseman, I think that's manageable. You take care of it, you rehab it, you just everyday maintenance that he would take care and get treatment, stem, ice, whatever they would use, massage, whatever, just to get it ready. And you get away with it at second base. Now you look at him, 8th percentile in arm strength. So there were 26 second basemen that made 300 or more throws last year. He was one of them, and he ranked 22nd in arm strength. He averaged 76 miles an hour on his throws. Now at second base, a lot of second basemen don't come up high on like the percentile list for arm strength because there's so many throws they just flip it over there, and that kind of docs like works against them.
Yeah, I wish I could see like only double play throws.
Right.
That would
he didn't look right. He didn't look right. His arm slot always looked weird to me. Like he short armed it like a catcher a lot instead of like really getting around it and throwing it. It was a quick arm, but like I feel like it made him inaccurate the way he threw. But I think that was to save his elbow. Now, the story is that he felt something taking ground balls and playing catch in December. And it was worse. It was something different. That's the story. I don't know. What I think happened is, yes, he did start playing catch. Like a lot of guys start playing catch in December and start feeling things. I think it's the same thing. But I also think, all right, we didn't sign Bogarts. He's not going to have the arm strength. He's going to have to get this fixed. Now, he didn't get Tommy John. He got an internal brace, which is probably everyone online saying 4 to 6 months. I think it's more 5 to 8 months, just from some people I talked to. So he could be back in July. He very well could be. It all depends on how he bounces back and the severity of the injury. But doctors I've talked to said they've seen guys take up to 8 months, that's like when a guy goes 16 months with Tommy John. This is supposed to cut it in half. Now, he's not a pitcher. He's going to be an infielder. But you think about moving from second base to short, you have all these different arm angles. You have going in the hole, and you really got to let it eat. And guys got to cover more ground now. We don't have shifts. So we're going to see infielders making longer throws now. That's something to play into it. So they're in trouble. I think they have to make some moves. I think Miggy Rojas was on their radar. So that's one less guy. Jose Iglesias, who's played in Boston twice before.
That seems like the perfect fit to me.
It does. He's played there before. He knows he can deal with Boston, the pressure there, the media. He's a very good glove, very good infielder. He hit 292 last year. He was in Colorado, but he hit 292 last year, which is
actually hit
really
the ball well for contact the past 3-4 years, really.
Right. So Josh Harrison's out there. Jurickson Profar, which Profar's been more of an outfielder. Supposedly he kind of got the yips a couple years ago in the infield, and that's why he's been in the outfield ever since. I played with him in AAA Round Rock in 2017. He was a young prospect with the Rangers. He was just an infielder then, and he was a good infielder. So I don't know what happened along those lines, but there's some names out there. Solano, another name, floating around. I didn't even know he was a free agent, which is crazy.
More of a second baseman for sure, but you could always kick.
Yeah, so the Sox have Christian Arroyo, who they like, and he played some good ball last year when he got his chance. As of now, he's playing second, and Kike Hernandez is playing shortstop, which Kike is actually pretty good at shortstop.
Yeah,
but they have a hole in center field then, because Kike is a good center fielder too, and it's going to have to be Jaron Duran, the young kid, or they make a move for somebody. They have a lot to do in Boston right now. A lot.
Their rotation is very injury prone too. So you're looking.
They are hanging a lot on two guys in James Paxton and Chris Sale, who barely pitched in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
All right. Then you have Nick Pivetta, who he can have some really good starts. He's hot and cold. He's either really, really good or really bad. And then you have Garrett Whitlock, who they're moving from the bullpen to a starter. Corey Kluber, I think was a good pickup though.
Yeah.
He was really good.
Guy that has injury history as well.
He does, but he was really good last year, and he dealt against the Astros and the Yankees multiple times. So I don't know. I like that move. He lives in Massachusetts, so I guess he'll sleep in his own bed at night. I think that's kind of cool. A good addition, good clubhouse guy.
Do any of these guys intrigue you at all? These are the remaining shortstop free agents, according to MLB.com. Elvis Andrus.
Yes and no. The only thing is, if let's say Trevor comes back in July, Mike, he's ready. I don't think Elvis is going to be a guy who can move well to second base.
He would fall back into more of a bench reserve role.
Yeah, but Iglesias could move over and play second.
Good. Jose Iglesias is next on the list. I have a stat for Iglesias. There you go. MLB shortstops with a 280 batting average and a 40-plus defensive rating since 2017. Carlos Correa and Jose Iglesias.
Candelita.
Jose Iglesias. Good clubhouse guy, too.
Iggy, yeah, he's cool. He's fun. We played together a lot.
Jose Iglesias, or I'm sorry, not Jose Iglesias. Alcides Escobar. He's now 36 years old, which is shocking to me.
That's crazy to think about, yeah.
What about Andrelton Simmons?
I'm kind of out on him.
Yeah. Great defensively, but obviously
he swings a wet New York Times lately, so.
He was injured most of last season with Chicago. And Didi Gregorius, another guy on the list.
Yeah.
Really struggled.
I don't know if Didi's
couldn't stay healthy.
Well, the Sox don't need more left-handed bats. I feel like they need right-handed bats. But
where's your panic meter with Boston? Season hasn't even started yet, but here we are.
I'm aware that there's still time to make moves, but panic meters, the needle's moving. I'll go 6.
I feel like your panic meter is higher because your confidence meter is so low in the front office, at least based on their recent history.
Well,
not really
no,
proven.
I don't think Chaim Bloom has made the best decisions. But I also think he hasn't caught very many breaks. Like Chris Sale situation like derailed the pitching staff last year. Uh, second start back, line drive breaks his finger. Then he has an accident, crashed his bike, breaks his arm.
Mm-hmm.
Kike Hernandez missed multiple months. Trevor Story missed a ton of time last year. Like Bogey missed time, Devers missed time. He hadn't caught any breaks. Now a lot of things are beyond him as far as the checkbook and who's going to pay what for what players. But I stand by. You got to bring back Xander Bogaerts, and I'll take that to the grave. Whatever it takes, re-sign Xander Bogaerts. That should have gotten done last spring or during the season last year. But we don't have to dig that back up. It's gone. But
he's not gone.
I don't not have faith in this front office. I just wish they would operate a little differently.
Mm-hmm.
I wish they would operate like they used to, as far as being a big market team, and kind of big boy in people, and they just don't do that anymore. Chaim is very smart. He's all about algorithms. He's about equations, and that's what won over John Henry. John Henry was a mathematician. Like and it makes sense. And he does a lot of stuff that works. He makes a lot of moves that do work, but we don't talk about that. We talk about the negative ones that stink, and the guys he didn't re-sign, and trades and this and that, and Mookie Betts, and there's all these big ones that stand out. But he does a lot of stuff right too. It's a tough market to not bully other teams as far as financially. When they
should be noted. Forbes came out and announced that Major League Baseball set a new record for league revenue during the 2022 season. So just feeds into our points that if you're
ticket prices also go up every year too. So
you take into account inflation, all that.
Yeah.
But there's money in baseball. So all those owners that are saying can't spend, well, they're making money somehow.
And they're all profitable. Even the ones that don't win even the ones that spend a ton of money on players are still profitable.
There's like one excuse, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, so forgive me if I kind of butcher some of this, but there's like 2 years in the last however many decades where a Major League Baseball club actually didn't make as much as they spent. And I want to say it was the 2016 Kansas City Royals. They were like the only team in baseball over the last 20 years that did not make as much money.
Which is crazy because they were in the World Series and they won the World Series in 15?
15, yeah. So they spent a little bit more.
They were in it in 14 and then won it in 15.
Correct. But the Kansas City Royals are basically the only team that could make the excuse that they physically cannot afford.
Which is crazy. But yeah.
Moving on. 2023 rules.
Oh boy.
Talk about it, Brooksy. We talked about the robo umps at the jump. Did you have more to add to Buster Olney reporting that robo umps will be implemented in 2023 in the minor leagues? You had more to add to that?
No, I'm just looking to see how they adapt during the season, like what changes they make to the database and the system, and can they troubleshoot during the season and like make changes week to week to make it better. That's what I'm watching for, because it's going to be imperfect. It's not perfect. Probably never will be.
Isn't that what it's intended to be, though? Is perfect?
It is, and I think they might be jumping the gun a little bit on it, but we'll see. I got to see how they adapt in season.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the strike zone is still letters to knees, correct?
Letters is high. You're never going to get letters.
But K zone supports that.
K zone does not ever have a box to someone's chest.
Bottom of the letters. We'll say like sternum. How about
like
sternum?
Number? If you have your numbers, like,
okay,
it's like team name then your number. Like maybe
who would benefit the most is Aaron Judge. That guy gets more low strike calls on him,
dude. He's one guy like you can call it high on because he's 7 foot tall. All right, what do you got?
Well, can I make one more point about the K-zone, then we can move on? So why are pitchers nowadays having so much success? Spin rate, balls up, high velocity up in the zone, right? Now, if we're going to add K-zone into the picture here, you're only going to see that emphasized even more, right? Because if K-zone's going to start calling strikes that are around the
I think you're going to see a lot more big curveballs too that catch the front of the plate, like catch the front of the zone. They like almost like the catcher might have to block them, but you see it sometimes on TV too. Like a guy will go down to block a curveball, big curveball, 12-6er, and it shows that it caught the zone.
Yeah, and people are going to be pissed about it because it doesn't look like a strike.
Right.
But my thing is,
but hitters can combat that by just getting in the front of the box. If they know a guy likes to throw that pitch, you just get in front of the box.
But I just think you're going to see more high velocity up in the zone, because if a lot of home plate umpires don't like to reward pitchers with high strikes, especially not high fastballs.
Well, most hitters swing at it.
Right. Now, if they're going to get called, you're going to have more of it. Like if you're going to reward pitchers for throwing fastballs up in the zone, it's already.
See, that's where I'm going to have to say, like, you're going to have to adjust. If you're watching the game and you're saying like, that's not a strike, but it's calling a strike, like there's got to be a group of people who are in charge of this going, that's got to change. Like game one, if you see it, don't let it marinate for a month and ruin the back of guys' baseball cards. And that's what I mean. Like adapt day to day. There's got to be a group. Melky's trying to get in. So you got to pee. What's he doing? I don't know. Anyways, they just have to adapt. I just want to see them adapt. That's it.
What are your thoughts on the pitch timer?
I think it's actually going to be good, man. I jotted down some notes before this. I was thinking about it. I think we see average game time like 2:45, which is, so that's going to be 21 minutes faster than last year, and it would be the quickest since 1985. Whew. So I think we're going to see something in April. I think you're going to see pitchers and hitters like complain a lot about it. Number one, they're going to say like, I'm feeling rushed. And then number two, they're going to say, I wait till guys get strike 3 because they weren't in the box, or ball 4 because they didn't throw it in time. Guys are going to bitch and complain about that. But I think after the first month, it just kind of blends in and becomes normal because guys are going to adjust. So I looked at the violations in AAA last year, or in the minor leagues. So last year in the minor leagues, there were 1.73 violations in the first week of games. Average almost 2 violations a game in the minor leagues the first week. By week 2, it was down to 0.73 per game. So they made a big adjustment. Like in the first week, they're like, all right, this is how it's going to work. Like we got to make a change. They did. It goes down by a full violation a game. And by week 21, it had stabilized at 0.45 violations per game. So basically 1 violation every 2 games. So either the umpires got a little more laid back and relaxed with it, or the players, which I think the players really locked it in and it became normal. So, there's some guys that this will affect more than others. Like guys like Kenley Jansen, Craig Kimbrell, Adam Ottavino, Gosman, Devin Williams, Montas, like guys like this who are very slow. I'm curious to see how their game changes. And that the Sox have Kenley Jansen. So I'm wondering, like, how's that going to affect him? So it's not only guys that are slow pitch to pitch. It's going to affect guys like Max Scherzer, who hasn't picked anyone off since 2016 because he has a bad pickoff move. So how he controls the run game is by long holds and pauses. You can't do that anymore. And you have limited pickoffs. So I'm curious to see if guys are going to be running all over him, knowing he doesn't have a good pickoff move, knowing he's on a timer. So we're going to see runners all over the place.
I think a lot of fans, their biggest complaint is that it's taking away from the different nuances of the game, right? For example, you mentioned the long holds. That's part of what makes baseball.
It is, but fans don't give a shit about that.
And that's kind of my
fans.
Point. Who's
the players and people who really are deep into the game know that stuff. Like I'm in the booth talking about that stuff. But
congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
People that don't know, Brooks is going to be on the Red Sox broadcast for, what is it?
I don't have the exact amount of games yet.
Anyways, he's going to be on pre and post game with Destin again, and he's going to be on the broadcast for a bunch of Red Sox games, including out here in San Francisco, which I'm looking forward to.
Yeah. It'll be fun. You can buy me lunch.
Oh, I don't think so.
But kind of to talk about what you were talking about as far as like I think stolen base attempts will be like at the highest level we've seen it in like 10 plus years.
It's like, which would you rather have? Long holds, stolen bases. Come on, people. Let's be real. The old traditionalists, I love nuances of the game too, but the old heads, I love the long holds. I love the strategy.
So with these changes throughout the minor leagues over the last couple of years, stolen base attempts have gone up 27%. It's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So something to think at. I think something else that comes from this is I think we see Trey Turner still 50 bases, and maybe that John Birdie guy from the Marlins. I think it's been 6 or 7 years since someone stole 50 bags. He was like Billy Hamilton, probably. But I also think so. I'm just spewing random thoughts here, but I think we see more 30-30 guys. There were 0 30-30 players last season. And I think we see at least 5 of them this year. At least.
Do you think home runs go down with the shift now?
No, I still think bashers are still bashers. I think it's going to help the like middle of the road players more.
But instead of with 2 strikes, instead of going for it all, couldn't you see somebody?
I hope so. I hope so. I don't know if home runs are going to like come down big time, because I think guys still know how to get paid.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I do think, like, going back to my point, like there's going to be a lot of 30. I think we see like at least think about guys who are capable of 30-30. So Acuna,
Yelich,
J-Rod, Trey Turner has really like Trey Turner has a real ability to go 30-30. Bobby Witt Jr., Tatis Jr., Kyle Tucker,
Cedric Mullins.
I don't think Cedric Mullins does it again.
He could. I'm just saying he has the potential.
Adolis Garcia.
Yeah.
Like, these are guys who all fly and have pop. Like, I think, and most of the time they can hit the homers, but it's like the bags just don't happen. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I do think batting average will rise. You brought up the shift, so we can shift to the shift here. Nice. I think guys like Corey Seager, Matt Olson, Juan Soto, I think they will be 3 of the guys Anthony Rizzo, who are most positively affected by the banning of the shift. I think Corey Seager has a monster year. I think batting average was 243 last year. Mm-hmm. That's the worst since the mound was lowered in 1969. All right. Awful. Pitching very good. Shifting, analytical alignment, all that works against you. Hitters' approach at the plate was dog shit. It's just how the game has. I think we see batting average go from 243 to, let's say, 255, which would be the best since 2017. Which is good. This is good for the pace of the play. It's pace of play also with runners on the move. I think that's great.
I have shift percentage in front of me from this past season. Most percentage of plate appearances that they were shifted against. Carlos Santana led Major League Baseball. He was shifted in 98.1% of his at-bats. After that, you have guys like Cal Raleigh, who was shifted 96% of his at-bats. Jose Ramirez is your first face of the franchise type player that was shifted at normally high rate. He was shifted at 93.9% of his. I
didn't even think about him. Yeah.
He also had a weighted on base average in those shifts of 380. So that's another guy that could really take advantage. We'll see. So you have stolen bases going up. You think the pitch timer is a good thing for baseball?
Yeah. Oh, you know what? Something else. I'm just thinking about the base runners. I think this was a trend that had kind of gone away. I think every postseason team will carry like an elite runner again.
You're
just because the stolen base is being such a big part of the game.
Yeah.
Last year in the postseason, stolen bases, I remember reading this. I'm trying to remember the correct number. Last year in the postseason, stolen bases per game dropped like 17% from what it was in the regular season, just because it was such a big risk. And you live and die by the home run. And if you get a guy thrown out, then it's just a solo homer instead of a 2-run homer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And pitching was so good. You're like, I don't want to run into an out. You know, we got one guy on with no outs. Like, I don't want to run into an out here. So the risk factor was much bigger. So it dropped almost 20% just from the regular season in the postseason. So I think we see, obviously, this stolen base is going to be important again. So each team is going to, the trade deadline or like August, whenever the deadline is, whenever they can sign a player, you're going to see like the Quentin Berries and guys like that, the burners that go to teams who aren't going to impact the game at all. They're probably not even going to get in the bat unless they're in there to bunt. Maybe a defensive replacement, but they're going to go in, run the bases for half an inning, and then they're out of the game. I think that plays again.
You brought this up on the last episode, tempo in between pitches, and with the pitch clock's going to be 20 seconds, right? Or 18 seconds.
15 and 20.
15 and 20. So 20 seconds with a guy on base, 15.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. It was 14 and 19 in the minor leagues last year.
Okay. So when the bases are empty, minimum 1,000 pitches, this was last season. The guy who had the slowest tempo, the most time in between pitches.
Oh, let me think. Is he a starter or reliever?
Starter. This is among starting pitchers, minimum 1,000 pitches from.
Gosman. Last year?
He is elite. Absolutely elite. The slowest tempo, minimum 1,000.
Like the elite of the elite?
Yes.
Like DeGrom?
He's a unicorn.
Oh, Shohei
Ohtani, 21.7 seconds in between pitches.
Are you shitting me?
That's the highest in Major League Baseball. So if you're telling me that the pitch timer is now going to be 15 seconds, that's nearly a 7-second difference.
Yeah, and I think he's probably tired from running the bases the inning before.
Yeah. By the way, when runners are on base, his tempo increases from 21.7 seconds to 26.9 seconds when runners are on base.
Jesus.
So now that's another 7 seconds in between. So if we're looking at guys that are going to be seriously impacted by this pitch clock, Shohei Ohtani's.
Who do you think leads baseball in ERA next year?
You just can put me on the spot like that.
Well, it's always like it's been the Dodgers for a while.
I have some good. Which team? The Dodgers in years past, the Dodgers have shifted more than any team in baseball.
Okay, so this is what's bringing this thought. I found these notes earlier. So what I wrote down was without shifts, the Dodgers will not lead the league in ERA for a fifth straight season. I think Houston will, just because of their arms, but. The Dodgers GM, Andrew Friedman, is like known as like the wizard of shifts. And I think he's going to lose some of his edge on other ball clubs. So from 2008 to 2014, when he was with Tampa Bay, they led the league in lowest BABIP, 273. From 15 to 22, when he was in LA with the Dodgers, they led the league at 272 BABIP. And that's because of the shifts. So without that, where are they going to be? Now, they had good pitching, but they also had guys hitting the ball right at people because he had this like unbelievable equation of putting guys in the right place.
Can you please put BABIP extraordinaire in your Twitter bio?
I love BABIP, dude.
Because you're basically a BABIP expert. Like that's your thing.
BABIP, and I love. You know what I learned to love last year when I was like talking about and analyzing players was expected batting average and expected ERA.
Yeah.
I think it's really cool because it like takes in effect like luck.
I fell in love with fielding independent pitching.
Yeah. There's a lot of cool stats.
Yeah, it's for sure.
But I don't know. I thought that was interesting. Like thinking the Dodgers, like they've led the league in ERA 5 or 4 years in a row.
Yeah. How
much is that going to change when they can't shift when that's what they're known for? So interesting.
2023, I'm guarantee you, is going to look a lot different. The game of baseball it's just different. Like it's not going to look like the last decade. The strategies are going to be different. The tempo is going to be different. I think it's going to be for the better.
I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be a fun game.
By the way, man, all these people complaining that baseball's changing, it's not the same. Look at the other sports, NHL, NBA, NFL. The NFL, they're implementing a new overtime rule this year to where both teams are going to get the ball. They're guaranteed possession of the ball. So other leagues are changing their rules just as quickly, probably faster and more frequently than Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball is actually behind the times when it comes to updating rules and getting up with the times. So for those complaining that baseball is not what it used to be, trust me.
Nothing is. Baseball was the last one to change.
It's going to look a lot different. I think it's going to be for the better.
By the way, the first half of this pod was so boring, and then we got into the rules stuff, and I thought it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's fair.
It was a snooze fest.
You trying to pin that on me?
No, we just had to talk about the headlines, and there's just nothing to talk about right now.
Yeah, that's fair.
So there's probably only 4 people still listening by now.
Your mom, my mom, your dad.
Someone's cat. They fell asleep with it on.
We're getting closer, folks. A month away from spring training, World Baseball Classic on the horizon. I'll be with you along the way. Wake and RAKE Podcast. Peace out, people.